Today, we are doing a 2-round 2026 NFL mock draft. Let's jump right into this. Blow my face in my board. It is based on all 22 grades, and if you see this asterisk next to someone's name, that means they are due to fall. Let's jump right into this. Again, I blend my board with realism. This is a live mock draft, and if you guys do want to see all 290 plus of the guys I have graded, please feel free to go over and follow me over on Patreon. $5 a month, you guys get to see all that, all the breakdowns. And for players like Malachi Lawrence, Keith Abney that did not make the initial player rankings videos, I'm going to be doing exclusive videos just on those players for you guys over on the Patreon. Alongside that, you guys get extended videos of positional rankings and then a little bit more on top of that. Let's get into this, starting out with the Cleveland Browns. And I have teamed up once again with DraftKings Sportsbooks to bring you guys an amazing offer. New customers bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Just make sure to use my code HMS when signing up. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has you covered. Bet live on in-progress games right as they happen. If sports betting is not yet legal in the state that you live in, do not worry. DraftKings still has you covered with their daily fantasy option. I live in the state of Texas, so this is the platform that I am going to be using. Make sure to use the code HMS when signing up, and a huge thank you to DraftKings once again for sponsoring this episode. There's a player at the quarterback position that I have yet to have the opportunity to update. Technically, two of them. Lenoris, I'm still waiting for South Carolina All-22. I watch him, but I do end up having the ability to watch normal games. I'm just not going to adjust my All-22 grades until I end up actually being able to do that. So I do want you guys to understand that, my grades are based solely on all 22 tape. And, I hold that standard for myself because I think it makes the quality a lot better. But there's a quarterback who I really want to get graded, and praying that my source gets me some Indiana tape. It's Fernando Mendoza. This guy ended up going up against a top 10 team in Illinois and lit him up. 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, only 2 incompletions as well. He is right now the front runner to be the head of the draft, the number 1 pick, potentially the Heisman winner. Fernando Mendoza, fantastic job. Also, he has an incredible build. If I'm not mistaken, 6'5", 225. And, coming from an old program in Cal to a new program in Indiana, and he's adjusted really quickly. I love seeing that, and it shows that he can acclimate to new environments, even though Indiana is arguably the best program in the country when you look at where they were to where they are. I still think he is showing tremendous leaps and bounds as growth of a player. This is not going to have any trades. Also, Arch Manning not going to be included in this. I don't even know if they include him here. They do. So PFF updated their board a little bit. I talked with Trevor Sikkema a little bit earlier today as well about some of the players that I still would be hoping to get on this list, but we'll talk about those guys when we get to that point. Glad we get to end up having some guys on here though, like Dante Moore that we'll be discussing soon. At number 2 for the New Orleans Saints, to me, it's between Ruben Bain Jr., which Ruben Bain's grade is updated. I will say this, and I guess it's a sneak peek into midseason rankings and such. Ruben Bain's been fantastic. We have to separate the college player from the NFL, and I think in terms of college, this guy's the best player in the country. I mean, there's not anybody who is really going stride for stride with Ruben Bain in terms of the effectiveness, regardless of the competition. I will say this, though. I do think Ruben needs to slim down a little bit. I don't think he has the top end athleticism that, I was thinking based on the domination that we could start talking about 80 or 90% of what Myles Garrett is based on the physicality and the build. But I also do worry about his arm length a little bit. He went up against Austin Barber and did not really win that matchup. Austin Barber has 33.5-inch arms, if I'm not mistaken. Might be 33.75. So Ruben's not going to be a 34, 35, 36-inch arm type of dude. And his straight line speed is not amazing. His endurance is not amazing. But again, these are nitpicks on a blue chip player, right? This is an amazing player that he's going to be fantastic. I just got to put that out there because it's fresh in my mind. I do think when the offensive coordinator, unless Daddy Nussmeier gets fired, you have to end up pairing the quarterback with the offensive coordinator. You have to do it. John Mateer ended up having hand surgery, so he's going to be out for a portion of the year. Sucks to see that, but we'll end up seeing if he ends up getting back on track after the fact. He's not forced to come out this year. So that's something that's a little bit worrisome. We'll still include him in this, but that's why he has a plus next to his name. He's out for a notable period of time on injury. Lenoris needs to get a lot more consistent. He's had a little bit of a struggle bus year so far, but I mean, he still has those throws that are jaw dropping. Regardless, something I've realized is that pairing matters arguably more than talent. Like you look at Indiana Jones right now, and he's playing better than, Caleb Williams is with Ben Johnson, right? Not saying Ben Johnson's the wrong fit, but let's just say with Eberflus, right? Everybody knows that Caleb Williams is more talented than Daniel Jones, but the pairing didn't end up working right. And if you end up pairing Garrett Nussmeier with a coach that knows him very, very well, has known him for a very long time, I think there's a chance at it being more effective than just the talent itself. So keep that in mind right there. Again, he's played some cupcake teams here in Louisiana Tech, and I'm forgetting the team that he ended up just playing. But, in pretty big games, he's not been necessarily that amazing. But Garrett Nussmeier has taken notable steps for me to where I feel very comfortable with him in the first, the way I wasn't really last year. And I know that sounds crazy because everyone's talking about him taking a regression step, but I think in terms of the college game, he has taken maybe a step back. And if you look at the traits and the progression to be an NFL player, I do think he's taking some strides forward. And I know it's hard to kind of fathom that idea, but it is something that I do think we need to start being a little bit more cognizant of is how good are you in college? How good will you be in the NFL? And the NFL is very much traits based. And I hate that word. I hate toolsy. I hate the word traitsy, but it is true. When you go to the NFL, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. Doesn't matter what your stats were in college. You guys are either starting or you're not. Depends on your workload. But on top of that, you all start the year out with zeros in every category. So traits is really what's going to separate you at the next level. And Garrett Nussmeier, there's a lot of things that NFL evaluators really do love about him. And especially, again, if you have that connection, makes sense. Spencer Fano is going to be my pick here at pick number 3. Ended up finally allowing a pressure in week number 4 versus the best edge duo to be fair, I was just talking up Ruben Bain, but arguably the best edge duo in the entire country there in Texas Tech. But Romello Height, he was the guy who I was like, oh, you got David Bailey, and then you have Romello Height. Romello Height's been balling out too. Ended up actually putting Lamu through a little bit more of a blender than Fano was. But regardless, Fano still is, in my opinion, the best tackle in the country outside of Tiernan. But, Tiernan hasn't had that level of competition just yet. He went up against Oregon and kicked their ass. Love that. But, he also does have possible arm limitations as well. We'll see what happens when we get the official numbers. I have it on a lot of players, but so far we haven't had a ton of them. I do know on Tiernan, though, it is about 32.5, which is not amazing. Not impossible, but that's why I got to be completely honest with you guys about what I do know. At number 4 for the New York Jets, I do think this also will be that quarterback position, and it's between Mateer, Sellers, and Moore. To me, I still think Aller and Klubnik deserve a good shout. This is actually the top group. I don't think I have any quarterbacks that are not in this group in my top guys. I'm trying to remember, do I have anybody that is just kind of crazy out of the blue? Technically, Aiden Childs. That's the other guy who's in that group of players. Garrett Nussmeier, John Mateer, Lenoris, Dante. I'm actually for once not super contrarian, but I will say that mobility is super crucial. Technically, all 3 of these guys up here count into that category. Klubnik, after this past week, has dropped to that QB6 range for me. Allard, he's great, but I don't think that it compares to Sellers, Mateer, or Moore. Sellers could end up having a red hot streak and end up really regaining his status as the number 1 player in the class. But I will end up going after the player who I do think has the highest ceiling. If you're going to go into a Justin Fields system, I think Lenore Sellers has a chance at being able to be that plus more. And so you're having the consistency of the system with a player who should end up elevating it as well. At number 5 for the Tennessee Titans, I'm going to go Ruben Bain here. Again, this guy's been on a tear, 50% true pass rush win rate. One thing I will get very grouchy with PFF, on top of many things, is that they love to adjust all their grades after the fact again. They'll say game grades official, and I'll end up saying, dude, Ruben Bain 9 or 10 pressures, hell yeah. And then I'll come back 2 days later and they'll just drop it down to 7. I will just say, I appreciate that maybe when you look back over time, it's a more accurate, but it is a little bit irritating when I make an entire video with certain statistics and offer that information to people, and you guys continue changing it. How about we just have better graders do it the first time? But Ruben Bain's been on a tear. He is pretty much a lock top 5 player. If the Browns ended up not being able to get Fernando Mendoza, like let's just say the Jets were at number 1, I'd end up considering Ruben Bain because I think he's a perfect system fit. At number 6 for the Carolina Panthers, I'm rushing Caleb Downs to the podium. Again, he is the best player in the class. Again, maybe not as good as Ruben Bain in college, even though Caleb Downs is phenomenal. It's just edge rushers usually dominate a little bit more than defensive backs. In the NFL, every single player is super duper talented. And so I think that Caleb Downs has that level of talent. And again, you guys are going to wonder about Malachi Lawrence. I think I'm going to include him in this mock draft and put him in the later second portion. I normally do it in like the mid to late third. But, you know, for those of y'all who are listening, because I know that, you know, people like to skip around the video. I respect it. This is 2025. This is what you do. It's what I do. But, you know, people who are actually listening and are wondering about Malachi Lawrence today, and I do have this information from like verified sources, Malachi Lawrence has 35-inch arms on the dot, 35 flat. Incredible. So, and he's up to 263 pounds as well. You know, he's been at the same true pass rush win rate as Ruben Bain. I'm just going to say, I'm feeling pretty good about still really loving Malachi Lawrence and putting my balls on the table for it. But at number 7 for the Miami Dolphins, there's not really a way that is amazing in this. And again, there are no trades in this. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but, you know, looking at how you can end up bouncing back, honestly, it could be developing a quarterback like John Mateer. I mean, I personally think that there's not many options here that are very ideal. If you look at offensive tackle wise, I don't think the value's there. I loved Caleb Tiernan, but again, it doesn't fit what you guys have started to draft before. And, you know, it's just like saying, like your buddy, he's just getting out of a relationship and every single girl he's dated is a brunette with brown eyes. You might say, dude, the blonde hair, blue eyed girl, she could be right up your alley. And it might. But if you are not talking to her at all and you're just guessing and you're saying, okay, well, you know, I think this is going to be the best fit, you might suggest the blonde hair with blue eyes, but you kind of know that, hey, if I'm a betting man, probably going to go with the type that he normally goes after, right? So similarly, I think I said that word correctly. Similarly, I think that the Dolphins are not going to go after somebody who has more of the issues with length. Again, love Caleb Tiernan to death, but we are dealing with an offensive line class that is a little bit subpar. Again, Caleb Lamu does, again, feel like in that realm with Tiernan, not necessarily the guy to go after in terms of the overall like length and such. I would love to go Kenyon Sadiq, but I'm not going to do that. I will end up going after the quarterback realm here, and I'm actually going to go after John Mateer. I think that, you know, he is just the best player available. It's going to piss people off, but I mean, if you want to keep Tua for another year, let John Mateer sit and develop. He's done such a phenomenal job just in 1 year transferring from Washington State to Oklahoma. The mental part of the game is still working for him, and he's doing a much, much better job. I was a huge critic of John Mateer's processing, but I really did blame it on Washington State because the offensive line was garbage, and his overall time in the pocket did not allow him to actually, you know, go through reads and learn how to end up playing the game at a higher level. I'm seeing this at Oklahoma and seeing him go like this, trajectory straight through the roof. And you might say like, dude, this is crazy. You know, 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. No, it's not. I mean, people try to dog this class for some reason, and they're like, oh, the quarterbacks aren't as good. Okay, so Lenoris hasn't become super cam just yet. He got red hot at the end of last year, could end up doing the same this year. Garrett Nussmeier having a little bit of a down season compared to normal. I don't think so. I mean, I really don't. But then you also look at Fernando Mendoza. Dude's red hot. I mean, he's worth a number 1 pick. I don't understand why there's all this crap talking. And then again, John Mateer taking a lot of progression steps like Dante Moore, showing legit potential starter quality. Like, I just don't understand. There's so many guys, including Sawyer Robertson, if you want someone on day 2. Aiden Childs, he's super young. Taylon Green, if you want to have pretty much a more accurate version of Joe Milton. There's so many good options in this class to either start or develop. I think that it is extremely, extremely arrogant to try to say that this quarterback class is not good. Now, it might not create a billion superstars. That can happen. But it really depends on the system fit because a lot of these guys have legitimate potential that the other classes in recent memory have not always had. So there's your quick little rant. We're going to speed this up a little bit. The Las Vegas Raiders at pick number 8. I know that the defense is not necessarily like, you know, red alert, but I'm looking at some cornerback talent here like Mansour Delane. And, you could try to go and play the cool game and try to like push down the line. Ooh, Quincy Rhodes is in this now? Hell yeah. Of course, Zion Young too. We're gonna have to talk about Zion Young. That dude's a baller, by the way. Romello Height. I was kind of hoping to see Malachi Lawrence in here. I doubt we will. We do not. Nijak Kelly is in here, but I do think edge rusher is a position for the Raiders they should go after. But because I actually trust Tyree Wilson to be more of a run defender, we could push it off in terms of allowing more of a pass rushing DPR style of edge rusher. So I'm going to go after a player who I'm very passionate about. I'm going to go after Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU here. This guy's been red hot this year, took a huge step up from Virginia Tech. Very happy to say he's my corner one. Technically tied corner one. I do have Keith Abney tied with him, but completely different roles there. I think Mansour Delane has been phenomenal. Now, Mansour is going to be 5'11". That's the only concern. He's listed 6 foot, but official number is 5'11 and 1/8. But he is still unbelievably talented, super flexible. I would just love Pete Carroll just to be able to see how he can end up handling Mansour Delane's talent and be able to deploy him properly. At number 9 for the Chicago Bears, Peter Woods is still on the table. True pass rush win rate is about 19.5%, which is really, really solid for defensive interiors. Surprisingly, true pass rush win rate. Hello. It's been a long day of work, but that's more of a statistic that lines up with the top edge rushers. What I ended up seeing is there's not much of a correlation on defensive interiors, and there's a multitude of factors in there, including double team and basically philosophy organizationally as well. So I'm not going to really go purely off of that, but it's still worth noting that Peter Woods is still worth one of these top selections, and definitely somebody who is very much in the realm of should you return to school. Shout out to Broshmo. I'm going to give him some credit, even though I never talked to him about this. He ended up dropping a video today, so I'm going to give him some love. I think he ended up dropping it today. Thought I saw it on Twitter, but ended up talking about guys who should be returning to school, which I think is a little premature. I'm going to give him a little shit for it as well. But I also think the Bears should be in the cornerback market. So I want to be able to continue being able to, double down on this, especially after the Johnson injury. I'm going to go after Keith Abney. Jesus Christ, I cannot speak English today. I wish I could speak another language so I could end up, giving an excuse there, but unfortunately, I do not have that choice. At number 10, we have the Indianapolis Colts, and we're going to trust Indiana Jones. I'm going to trust him. Might as well. Steichen knows how to utilize quarterbacks, and just because it hasn't worked out with Anthony Richardson does not mean it can't work out with Indiana Jones. He's been doing a fantastic job, and this is a team where you want to take that round 3 guy, like you talk about, or Sawyer Robertson. That's how you do it. I always talk about this in terms of, play Moneyball, right? Draft positions high that you haven't really shown the ability to draft down the board. And if you have a really good eye for talent, like for me, if I were a head coach, just going to be honest, probably not drafting cornerback all that high, which is crazy, right? Unless you think of a talent like, I was a huge fan of JPJ and stuff, but, or, Andrew Phillips, like I would have probably drafted him late second, knowing that he probably was going to be a 3rd round pick. Like, if you have an eye for talent, utilize that to your strength. Don't, like the Packers drafting offensive linemen late. That's what they do really, really well. They just snipe offensive linemen on day 3. Utilize that unless you have a guy fall into your lap that is kind of not passable. And in this case, I do think Peter Woods is just that dude that you can't let go at this point. And so we're going to go after it because I do think defensive interior is such an underrated position to target for the Colts. And I do want to change things up a little bit as well. At number 11 for the Cleveland Browns, TJ Parker has not been good this year, unfortunately. He's gone up against some cupcake competition. Not good. Cassius Howell, unfortunately, I will call this out right now. Official numbers under 31-inch arms. That's a no-go. Under 33 is a red flag, right? And I was a huge fan of Antoine Powell-Ryland. I found out he had under 31-inch arms, and I'm like, that's not going to work. And it is not worked. So very unfortunate there. Christian Miller's a name that I was actually putting up pretty damn high. The more I looked at it, he has a 7% pass rush win rate, true pass rush win rate, which again, talk about like 12% there naturally, great. But I really do care about that true pass rush win rate as well. But for the Browns, they like their bigger builds. I would end up saying that Keldrick Falk could bring like a higher floor. I just don't think it's going to happen. We are going to go after the offensive line. Now, this is also a team that you look historically, they like to go after guys with some solid statistics. You look at the measurables there. But Lamu and Tiernan are the guys who I'd be targeting here, especially with DeJuan Jones out for the year. I do think you need to go after one of these two. And both are not going to be super ideal, but I do think they will go after Lamu because the natural leverage will be a bit better at 6'6" than 6'8". And I think Lamu might be a little shorter than that. So we'll go after Lamu there at pick number 11. Pick number 12 for the Los Angeles Rams. A multitude of routes you can go, but I do think you have to go after the quarterback with the highest ceiling. And I mean, you could technically wait, but you're going to debate between whether you want Dante Moore or Drew Aller, and that could end up working out for you. I mean, you're going to get one of the two at pick 26 because I guarantee you that's the next team that's going to be picking a quarterback outside of the Steelers. Like, do you want to choose Dante Moore here and get whatever falls to you, or, kind of like do something special here? And for me, I think that I'd feel a lot more comfortable going after the future at my quarterback position, someone who still needs that development too, and Dante Moore. He's done a phenomenal job this year. I still think he's putting it together, but this is someone who will probably go back to school. But if he's red hot and is going to be a top 15 pick, he's going to go. That's just the truth. And again, you're going to get all mad because, this many quarterbacks won't go. It did when there was a strong top of the class. Bo Nix was not the second or third or fourth quarterback taken, right? Like, we can talk about it. Does that mean all these quarterbacks are going to hit? No, but I do really love the fits, and I'm trying my best here for you guys as well as for me, because I'm wasting my time if I'm making dumb decisions, putting the quarterbacks with the situation that fits them best. And Dante Moore, tons of arm talent, still developing as a processor. Maybe technically Drew Aller would be better, but Dante Moore is younger, more moldable. And as a true freshman, I remember at UCLA, this guy was just jaw-dropping and ended up having some stumbles, but he's having a red-hot year. Like, Mateer would be my favorite in LA, but regardless, I'm hoping that maybe somebody from the Kevin O'Connell tree, or you can obviously talk about the McVay tree going and probably starting anew there in Miami. So lots of reasoning there. At number 13 for the Dallas Cowboys, you could talk about Jordan Tyson here. I mean, it just depends whether George Pickens is back, but Jordan Tyson's a very underrated take here. And I really would love to hear what y'all think about it. I mean, again, especially with CeeDee Lamb, you can't just have him be the focal point of the offense. You just can't. You have to have a multitude of ways to go about it. By the way, super hot take. I do not like AJ Harris. I just don't. I was literally watching Zakee Wheatley earlier, and AJ Harris was like one of the worst defensive players on their team. Just going to throw that out there as well. But, I mean, for the Cowboys, you're sitting here at 13. I'm not going to go the running back route. I don't like that. Edge rusher doesn't feel like it's proper value because, once again, they also value the Cowboys' physical build. Like Danny Dennis Sutton, again, having a strong week 1, but falling off in the next weeks doesn't sit right with me. So I feel very uncomfortable. Zion Young's arguably the player I'd target here, 6'5", 262. Like, there's just, like, all these players have issues respectively. I'm going to throw the curveball. You got, to be fair though, hold up. Corner? Nah. I mean, Colton Hood is definitely someone I would be intrigued with. He's my corner 6 at the moment. I updated him. But I'm going to go Jordan Tyson here because, first off, this team, long run, you don't know if GP is going to be there. Even if he is, the passing game is how this team operates. That's just the truth. And yeah, you should try to get Jeremiah Love or something and upgrade the run game. But the team does operate through the air, and you cannot solely rely on CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens has not been reliable enough yet. We'll see over the next couple of weeks. And then, I mean, you can't just throw 13 passes to Fergie every single game. Not many tight ends can handle that workload. I don't know many tight ends that have ever gotten that level of workload. So we're going to go after a player that can end up allowing even better distribution because that wide receiver 3 spot, I mean, I hate to say it, it is kind of embarrassing. You're just trying to like put names there like Turpin. Ooh, cool. Like, you also talk about Jalen Tolbert. It's like, ooh. I mean, I was a huge fan of the kid from South Alabama. I'm forgetting his name. Ryan Flournoy. Like, loved him. But we got to be serious now. This is the NFL. You can't get super flashy, especially when the team is so firepower based. And Jordan Tyson, he's a true wide receiver 1. And that's what I wanted to do for the New England Patriots, which is why I ended up taking him there. A corner is also a position to go for the New England Patriots. And honestly, with the physical capabilities of Colton Hood, I don't mind it. This dude's been rock solid. He's a different player than he was last year. I thought he was not good at Colorado. And I know my boy Keegs is going to love me giving some love to Colton Hood. Run defense grade of a 54. I think that's bullshit. Straight up, Colton Hood's willing to go into the box. He's willing to go, like, the hole could open up right in front of him. He'll charge into it. Like, I love that about him. Now, something that bothered me, this guy jogs when he's not, like, one of the first 1 or 2 defenders to the ball. Not a huge fan of that versus the run. But outside of that, I think this guy has been fantastic, deserves a ton of love, and I'm going to have him be the player from Tennessee at corner to go first. So Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee, going at number 14. And number 15 for the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, I think you just got to go best player available. And, the way David Bailey's been playing this year definitely is intriguing. He did have a little bit worse of a game, technically, than his team, Romello Height. Like, we'll go check him out really quick so you guys get to see the stats. I mean, Romello statistically is better as a pass rusher. I would say Romello is actually perfect for the Raiders. I was mentioning it earlier, kind of getting a DPR, like a pass rusher, designated pass rusher, for those of y'all who are learning those terms. But, man, like, it's a little bit early for a DPR. So let's try to see some other options. Kenyon Sadiq would be crazy. The only reason I haven't taken him is just because the opportunity hasn't truly arisen. I mean, a lot of these teams have like Fergie ain't getting replaced. Ferguson should be replaced, in my opinion. I was not a fan of that pick when it happened, but it is what it is. But Sadiq could end up pairing back up with him. That's the one spot where I'm like, do I dare go contrarian with LA? But I mean, the Browns know. The team that just drafted Tyler Warren, no. Loveland, no. Browers, no. So it's like the first team you could really think of is like in the top 7, which I've done before, but definitely not going to do that this time. The Seattle Seahawks as well. You could talk about the boundary corner. I'm not going to go corner 4 at 15. I think that's extremely unrealistic. Interior offensive line would be fun, but once again, not personally a huge fan of that. Christian Miller would be intriguing here. Again, having a little bit of a struggle year, even though his normal pass rush win rate is 12%. His true pass rush win rate is only in the 7. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I don't understand how that's even possible, but because like, how do you do better when you're not like actually pinning your ears back? I don't understand that. But I mean, also on top of that, I don't think that his build necessarily complements what the Seahawks are going for. So I'm going to go after David Bailey here. He might have had a little bit more of a struggle week this past week. I do think, though, that his blend of athleticism, his blend of IQ, and then he's such a balanced player. I feel very comfortable with it. And again, he went up against arguably the best tackle duo in the whole country. You're not going to have your best game. Romello Height did, but also Romello Height is far worse against the run, which David Bailey is going to be someone who could be a true every down player. At 16 for the Steelers, drafts in Pittsburgh. They're going to go after a player who's also from Pennsylvania. Well, plays in Pennsylvania. I forget where Aller's actually from, but getting better every single year. People are like, "Oh, he's taking a step back. Look at the PFF grade." First off, PFF grades are not the end all be all. Always use it as a nice way to have a good reference, but also he's played pretty much nobody. This is going to be, I think it's this week, is his first true test. Could easily elevate him or drop him. But Drew Aller, he has Steeler written on him. You talk about Big Ben, big, semi-mobile, has a crazy arm, a little bit of a gunslinger. Like, that's what Drew Aller is. So he's going to go there at 16. 17 for the Vikings. I think they're going to re-sign Isaiah Rodgers after the way he ended up playing. Ridiculous talent. I mean, ridiculous. I'm gonna go actually after the safety who I love to death here, and Dylan Thieneman. I mean, we'll see if he ends up like getting into like his groove. I will say that he needs to be a free safety, which they're using him all over the place. Once again, I mean, just let the guy be a free. Like let him roam. That's where he does his best. But for the Vikings, I do think this is the area where we can improve upon the most that has the value at the moment. So we're gonna go Dylan Thieneman, defensive back out of Oregon. At number 18 for the Arizona Cardinals. Um, I want a team to get Kenyon Sadiq, and it's going to be the Broncos, which is just bullshit because he should go in like the top 10. But, Cardinals, if we don't see Trey Benson do better, we could see Jeremiah Love be the option here. Unfortunately, James Conner did get a season ending injury. We'll see how much he can bounce back from that. But the NFL stands for not for long. Unfortunately, that's just how this world works. And I'm looking at players who could end up being a wide receiver for this team. I do love Mekhi Lemon. I know I've gotten some pushback from my Cardinals fans on that. I personally disagree with the pushback, but at the same time, you can talk about guys like Casey Concepcion, like a lot of players who could be there at 50, probably can get better value at that spot. Like linebacker, you could go after the best linebacker in the class. My Pookie Bear Arvell Reese is in this. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, this is like a legit range where we could talk about Arvell Reese. I want to give him love. This is the first mock draft he's available. We're going to do it. Arvell Reese, linebacker of the Ohio State University, finally ends up being able to, I mean, he's actually able to play. And the dude's just a beast. I mean, even versus Texas, I mean, I don't give a shit about 62 defensive grade. This dude showed up in big moments. And this is a team that needs a legit Mike, and that's what Arvell Reese could be. At 19 for the Broncos, this is the easiest pick of the entire draft, Kenyon Sadiq. They need a tight end for the long run. This is a player who should be going top 10. It's just, unfortunately, those teams that are in the top 10 are not there because, somebody got hurt. It's because they genuinely need help. So, Kenyon Sadiq's the option there. At number 20 for the Houston Texans, Jeremiah Love's going to be my choice here. I mean, I know it's kind of been copy-paste. And to be fair, we could go Tiernan here because we're seeing a lot of struggling on the offensive line. Isaiah World is definitely possible as well. He is somebody who's had experience in the past at right tackle, but again, somebody who I want to see a little bit more against talent that is NFL translatable there, Oregon. And some of the tape I've seen of him, I will say I want him to develop a little faster. For a player who I really liked as a top 15 guy and had a lot of penalties, I think he's trying to cut down on that. And there's definitely an adjustment process. You know what? We're going to go after the best running back in the class. I think that's going to be the safer move. Let's go after Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. At number 21 for the Los Angeles Chargers, interesting situation to be in. At 21, you're still just trying to figure out exactly how to get over the hump and be a legitimate contender. But when you have Keldrick Falk, LT Overton, TJ Parker to some degree, Joshua Joseph's not as much, but Danny Dennis Sutton, when you have these guys available for you, Zion Young as well, you're in a really good spot. I do think that Keldrick Falk will bring some foundation and like some consistency because you're trying to move on from Khalil Mack. I get it. I think that there's definitely going to have to be some sort of stability there. And Keldrick Falk will not allow your defense to, I mean, right now, I believe you're top 5 in run defense. This is exactly how you maintain that as you try to transition to a new era. Keldrick Falk, the choice for me at 21. The Commanders at 22, once again, you're just trying to Frankenstein that defensive line, especially in the edge core. We've been asking for it forever. We're going to get it. We're going to go LT Overton, edge rusher out of Alabama. Again, finally had a better week there versus Wisconsin to boost up those stats. But, I still think he is a fantastic edge rusher, has a great build, and you can pair him up with a multitude of styles of edge rushers to where it frees you to go best player available later in the draft or in free agency. At 23, would have loved LT Overton here, but I think TJ Parker is going to be a little bit scary. I don't know if he's going to even come out. It's another player that is definitely on the return to school list. But the thing is, Chase Brown, God rest his soul, because the poor guy, I remember they're saying from the last week, all the reps of him or all the touches of Chase Brown where he wasn't touched before the line of scrimmage, and it was one rep. You gotta fix the offensive line, man. You just gotta do it. And I'm gonna go after the best offensive lineman available, also a teammate of one of your own in why am I now forgetting the left tackle from last year? Who gives a shit? He has 35-inch arms. Love him to death. But because I keep thinking of Bell off the top of my head, who's the current left tackle. But Francis Mauigoa, right tackle out of Miami, we're going to use him as a guard and end up just continuing to maul on the interior. Just get consistency going, guys. Get consistency. At number 24 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, TJ Parker might be the guy you have to pull the trigger on at this point just because of the high ceiling. And I trust Bowles. I'm going to trust him to continue doing what he has to do best. TJ Parker, the selection there. At 25 for the San Francisco 49ers, I mean, they've done a fantastic job. If TJ Parker were here, I'd consider it just because now with Nick Bosa having that season-ending injury, it will allow you to have a much better rotation that, especially when you're coming back from injury and such, it will allow for a much easier transition and then better maintenance as well. But I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. I will still be looking at that long-term tackle. And Isaiah World's here, and I was saying it before, this guy has top 15 potential, and you're going to be able to get him here. Also, he's listed at 6'8", but everyone's saying he's listed around actually 6'5" or 6'6". So it's somebody where if you need to put him at guard, because if I'm not mistaken, Connor Colby has been starting for y'all as well. You have the opportunity to do that. So we're going to go Isaiah World, tackle out of Oregon here at 25. Just best player available. At 26 for the Rams, I would have looked at Isaiah World there for them. Took Dante Moore there in the first. Areas that the Rams can continue to improve. Linebacker, they just don't value it enough, but I would say yes. Cornerback is the easy one. And looking at the players who I really like, I still think Igbenogsen's super underrated. Not taking him in the first based on his history with penalties and such, but a name worth noting. AJ Harris, talked about him earlier. I think he's extremely overrated. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. I love Penn State defenders, but Avion Charles, the player I'm talking about. I mean, statistically, you look at the box score, and again, you're super low IQ if you're just going to look at a box score and say that's the exact reason why or why not. Like, use your eyes and then let the box score, either give you some reasons to doubt what you saw or at least question it or affirm it, right? Avion Terrell passes the eye test. I mean, even versus Syracuse, even though they lost, he was far from a reason why they lost. Just a really solid, consistent corner. I think the Rams can exit day one with two high-end weapons there in Dante Moore and Avion Terrell, one for the offense, one for the defense, and be happy. At 27 for the Dallas Cowboys, another team that could have honestly used a corner there in Avion Terrell. They're sitting here and got Jordan Tyson earlier in the first, and crazy that happens, but it is very, very possible. I'm going to go Danny Dennis Sutton here. Again, might have had a big step back from the week one versus Nevada, but we will see this year this week, if he can end up taking a step up. Again, I believe they're playing Oregon this week, but when they do play them, this is the most important game of the year for probably him as well as Drew Aller to really show, like, are you guys still the legit top end talents that we know? But also, the Dallas Cowboys are a perfect fit for Danny based on the fact they like guys who are about 260, 265. At number 28 for the Kansas City Chiefs, another team that would have been great for Danny Dennis Sutton, one that I traded up for Danny Dennis Sutton last week. Interesting situation that could end up resulting in a wide receiver here based on the fact that you don't really have a big deep threat. I still remember MVS being an absolute king on this team. Denzel Boston. I mean, again, I'm trying to change some things up, keep it fresh for us. I do think that's an underrated position to target. I do like where you guys are at cornerback-wise because a very similar player to Jermod McCoy and Noel Williams is doing a pretty damn good job there. And if I'm going to be honest, I should have seen it from a mile away. I mean, when you guys ended up, I might have been drafted, might have not been drafted. Kamal Hayden, you guys like physical boundary corners. It's like, I should have realized that connection there. Jermod McCoy, straight up your guys' alley. So I can see that. A defensive back is not a bad idea. Zaki Wheatley, did my dumbass not shift him in here? I did not. Technically, I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. Where is he at? Oh, Colton Hood, by the way, should have ended up reshuffling him right there. He'll end up being in my top 40. But all the way down here, Zaki Wheatley will end up nestling himself nice and easy at number 26 on my board. So Zaki Wheatley is an underrated position, underrated player to target here. I'm not going to do that. Let's throw the curveball. I mean, the Chiefs are not afraid of going after top end weapons in the first. Like they end up going, I mean, obviously after Xavier Worthy, who's been screwing me over in fantasy right now, but obviously Rashi Rice, and then you kind of need to figure out that third receiver. You can't continue to like patch it and just try to get something going. You got to get someone who's legit. And I'm going to go after Denzel Boston here, who's 6'4". He's a great deep threat, great at the jump catch spot, like really reliable player. So Denzel Boston, the selection there at 28. I'm so excited to get some all 22 in Washington. Please, for the love of God, let's get that. Number 29 for the Detroit Lions, edge rusher. Kind of the common theme, but I'm going to go linebacker here. I feel very comfortable with Sonny Styles. I do think there's a notable drop off in terms of the mics in this class. And, again, that's the big key here. Like Whit Weeks, undersized. Anthony Hill, a lot to work on. I'm going to go after the Ohio State kids as the 2 linebackers to go in the first. At number 30 for the Baltimore Ravens, y'all need some help on the defensive line. And we're going to go back to Georgia. Christian Miller is very reliable. Again, he's having a little bit of a down year, so that's why I'm kind of, being a little bit more conservative on where I'm taking him. We're going to go after Christian Miller there at number 30. At number 31 for the Philadelphia Eagles, boundary corner 2. I mean, especially with all these guys going to IR, absolute kick in the nuts. I just don't. Howie will not go after a bound. He might, honestly. I mean, the value for Jamal McCoy. I remember when you guys drafted Quinion as well as Coop. There was, that was when the Giants ended up doing their hard knocks for the offseason, and it showed both of them as red for injury, red flag. You might end up rocking Jamal McCoy here. He's also very smart, like relatively smart in zone coverage, very physical. He'd work with Vic Fangio. That's why I'm very comfortable with the idea of it, even though I'm still a little bit hesitant on Jermod McCoy. I'm going to go after it. Jermod McCoy goes to the Philadelphia Eagles at 31. At number 32 for the Buffalo Bills, Caleb Banks is an intriguing choice here. I do think you could try to get someone who can stretch the field a little bit more as a vertical threat. Carnell Tate's not a bad idea. He has shown a lot more well-roundedness than he had before. Casey Concepcion has been doing a fantastic job as well. Can't blame him, but it's so much easier for me when I end up having Sonny Styles available. So much easier. I would end up even just trying to look at some defensive line talent. I mean, Caleb Tiernan's here too. Love him to death. Not going to say it's for you guys, but like this is where I really wish I had trades. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with the options in front of me. I'm going to just go after best player available. I'm going to test out Caleb Banks here. He's had a lot of injury issues this year, and I think that's the reason he'll get here. But 35-inch arms, once you can get him on the field, this dude's going to be an absolute savage. And you put him around with all the defensive talent you have, I do think you're in an environment to have a lot of success. So we ended up having a 4 stretch of defense to end off the first round. So here in the second, we got Fernando Mendoza, Caleb Lamu so far for the Cleveland Browns. And we could just go balls to the wall, continue going after wide receiver and, continue focusing on the offense. But I'm going to give a shout to a new player who's been fantastic so far, and that's Zion Young, edge rusher out of Missouri. I ended up having a fantastic week against South Carolina, the perfect time to turn things on. One of the names that, shout out to Connor Rogers. He ended up mentioning him as one of his top 10 edge rushers, if I'm not mistaken, coming into the year. We're going to go after Zion Young there at 33. They went to Missouri, and they're starting number 2 edge rushers from Missouri. We're going to give him some love. I have not graded Zion Young. I just know that this guy was absolutely feasting when I was watching the game. And I will say South Carolina, I'm not going to say they're the best offensive line in the world, but they are far from absolute scrubs. And so it's really good to see that. At number 34 for the New Orleans Saints, Garrett Nussmeier in the first. Again, feathers will be ruffled because I continue to do that. But I hate to say it. You got to do what you got to do. If you see something that's there, I owe it to you guys to give you something relatively realistic. I will say the Saints, I'll be still looking at the edge rushing crew. Zion Young would have been kind of perfect if you look at the physical build. It is going to be a lot closer to what Mickey Loomis likes to go for. And to be honest, the next guy is Malachi Lawrence. He is 6'4", 263 with 35-inch arms and a 50% true pass rush win rate. I'm going to do it. It's going to make people mad. I get it. But, I mean, we also got in touch with Malachi. Hopefully we can get him on the show. Fingers crossed. But my number 6 player in the class, Malachi Lawrence, 35-inch arms, listed at 263. I mean, technically online, I believe he's listed at 250, but official notes say 263. And again, 35-inch arms, 50% true pass rush win rate at this point of the season. Kind of ludicrous, to say no. So my number 6 player in the class, Malachi Lawrence. Number 35, New York Giants. Took Spencer Fano in the first. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I think we should just go after consistency here. Carnell Tate. I mean, why not? The dude's able to threaten all levels of the field. It's just going to be consistency on top of just more firepower on offense. Could talk about corner here. I mean, there's definitely some good options if you wanted to go take a peek there. DJ McKinney would be the one that might be the option, but he's been getting tuned up a little bit. Definitely somebody where I was a little bit hesitant at the start of the year, and he's been not the most amazing player. A dark horse player that you've never heard of that I ended up hearing about today. So shout out to James Foster, amazing analyst. I got to give him credit where credit's due. He and I are very similar on certain players that we end up really liking. But Chris Johnson, defensive back out of San Diego State. So 6 foot, 195, great build, great in off coverage as well. He's been a very good player this year. So another name to watch out for. I do not have tape on him just yet, but I really do want to throw that out there. But I'm going to go after best player available for me, which is either going to be Makai Lemon, Carnell Tate. Your choice, but I will go after someone who's a little bit more versatile in terms of, having an extra 4 inches to their height, and Carnell Tate. At 36 for the Jets, ended up going Lenore Sellers in the first. Nick Harbor has been very, very stiff this year. I've been very unimpressed. I was hoping to see a little bit more from him, but that game versus Missouri just made me feel very uncomfortable with him. Again, obviously the drops are a bit of an issue. 2 of them in week 1 definitely hurts. But I think for the Jets, a couple routes you can go, but I do like the idea of Casey Concepcion here. You can talk about Jeremy Bernard being reliable after the catch, kind of what you were hoping out of Malachi Corley, because Jeremy Bernard's elite as a wide receiver 3. But Makai Lemon is a crazy separator, like Chris Bell as well, fantastic player. You can't go wrong here. There's so many different flavors of ice cream, so to speak, that you can end up choosing the one that fits you best. Chris Bell feels like the least likely to go out of the bunch. And, I'm actually going to go Jeremy Bernard here. Consistency matters. It really does. Jeremy, I don't know. Again, it makes me question, and I can't question that many people because there's some people I really trust to watch actual film. But a couple people that I really did trust ended up commenting how they didn't like Jeremy Bernard after the catch at the start of the season. And I'm like, am I just dumb? I know I've made some dumb decisions on wide receivers in preseason and such. Like, it happens to the best of us when you don't have information about how they've developed their role in the offense, and obviously seeing and developing as a scout, it just, you have growth pains. But they're like, the one thing I was consistent on was Jeremy Bernard, regardless of when I liked him versus when I didn't at Washington, I loved him after the catch, and he's been so damn good after the catch, and it makes me feel a little bit more validated with that. Titans, you get lucky here. Makai Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. You also pair him up with Ruben Bain. You're getting pretty much a wide receiver 1 and also an edge 1 for depending on certain people's boards. At number 38 for the Panthers, Caleb Downs was the first round selection. Big Dom Orange would be crazy. That'd be a crazy addition. Also, one of my favorite players in the class, Tiernan's continuing to slip. It happens. Again, how many teams are going to go after offensive line? It is what it is. I will say this could be the spot where a quarterback goes. If you're sitting at 6, think about this. You're sitting at 6. Bryce Young obviously is not putting it together. The offensive line is not that bad. The weapons are definitely not that bad. Now, you can't have T-Mac dropping a couple balls every week. Don't know where that came from because he was balling out the first couple weeks. Maybe there's some little injury that we don't know about. There's obvious reasons why guys have drops in production. But the defense, definitely some areas of concern. But I will say this. I think I will go quarterback here. Not many quarterbacks in the second really work out, but Cade Klubnik is the most overhated quarterback that I've ever seen. Like, it is honestly kind of shocking. Yes, they should have won versus Syracuse. Yes, it's a shitty attitude to say every time we build up momentum, Syracuse ended up faking injuries. I agree. I am the number one person who was very skeptic about Cade Klubnik. Like, he was quarterback 5 for me coming into the year when everybody was like, this is the bona fide quarterback 1 or quarterback 2. This guy makes incredible throws. Placement to a T. Amazing. Now, has some issues with some pressure, but I still think he's done so much better. Just because statistically he's not doing as well this year, again, don't look solely at the stats. There's the college player, there's the NFL player. I do think Cade Klubnik is still a really solid NFL player. I think Carson Beck is extremely overrated. Coming from a guy who was hyping up Carson Beck at the beginning of the year, okay? Like, now it's gotten to the point where now I have to defend or like go against everybody hyping up a guy who I actually liked. So I do think there's a notable drop off. I don't think Sam Levitt's that good. He doesn't play the game at the NFL level. Again, college player, NFL player. Arch Manning, not considered in this, but even then, still, I mean, dude has a lot of maturing to do, both on the field as well as in the head. Sawyer Robertson, you could talk about that, but Cade Klubnik to me is the next best quarterback available, and you got to take a shot where you can. If you're sitting at number 6, there's a reason for it. At number 39, the Miami Dolphins started out with John Mateer. Great way to start out. I mean, you're building the foundation of your team. I will say Big Dom Orange might be a great way to build up some consistency on your defensive line and just make it a little bit better. You might say, hey, we got to go defensive back. Our defensive back room's not good. You're not wrong. The guy who I'd go after is Zaki Wheatley. Again, I mentioned it. He would end up being my 26th best player on my board. And that includes the guys who I have destined to drop. Zaki Wheatley has been phenomenal. And I ended up purposely grading his game. That was his worst. And I will say his biggest issue is processing how routes develop behind him. And I saw this, I think it's an issue with Penn State for some reason. It's something they did not have before. So I don't know what has shifted in the past couple of years. But even the linebackers had the same issue. They're not processing and imagining where the player is going to be behind them. Like, there's just, for some reason, this lack of awareness behind them. But when Zaki Wheatley is playing with the field in front of him, game over. And he's a big hitter too for his size. He's not the biggest guy, 202 pounds. Like, I'm going to go after it. I mean, no, I can't do that. You have to get someone who's a bigger impact than a safety. I hate to say it. I can't do that to y'all. We're going to go after best player available. We're just going to continue bolstering the defensive front. Dom Orange here out of Iowa State. Continued to develop the offensive line in round 3 and 4. Same thing with the defensive back room. Zaki Wheatley's worth it, but I just feel like you have to go after something a little bit more impactful on a down-to-down basis. And, starting a rebuild with a quarterback and safety is risky business that most teams don't do. Number 40 for the Las Vegas Raiders. Start out with Mansour Delane. I was talking about it earlier. You got to look at some potential true pass rush or DPRs here. And, Joshua Joseph is a great example as well. 34 and 3/4 inch arms, if I'm not mistaken, at least 34 and a half. Like, really solid length and a dude who's going to bring the heat. Romello Height, also mentioned him. I think Romello is still a 3rd round player based on the lack of balance to his game. I don't think he's going to be a good run defender. Joshua Joseph's kind of an underrated run defender, even though I don't think he's the best at it. Cassius Howell, again, you might say, why is PFF's number 7 guy not being drafted? He has confirmed under 31-inch arms. I just don't think that's the case. R. Mason Thomas could be that type of dude as well, but I want a bit more balance to my player. Quincy Rhodes has been phenomenal, even though he kind of got... I didn't like him versus the run when I was looking at Memphis straight up cut them open like a hot knife through butter. I'm actually going to go Joshua Josephs here. He's a little bit on the older side, if I'm not mistaken. He's a true senior, but he's a little bit undersized. But the pairing of him and Tyree Wilson in terms of situational downs is going to be phenomenal. I really like the idea there. I want to test it out. Maybe it's a bit early, but let me know what you guys think regardless. At 41 for the Bears, I'm running this to the podium. So far, we went after Keith Abney. I'm going Caleb Tiernan. Left tackle needs to be solved for the long run. We're going for a guy right down the street. He has 32-inch arms, but, I mean, personally, get rid, and this sucks because I really, really like the guy, and I think he deserves a shot at right tackle. Get rid of Ozzie Trapilo. Stop trying to force a right tackle to be a left tackle, especially when he's showing that he is not acclimating very well. Arrogance pisses me off. Don't do it. Just don't. So Caleb Tiernan, the choice there. At number 42 for the Indianapolis Colts went Peter Woods in the first. If we had Cade Klubnik here, I would just say, lock it in. But we do not. I don't think there's that many issues with this team. It's one of the most underrated teams. Wide receiver core, great. Tight end, great. Running back, great. Maybe some depth there, but DJ Giddens, still someone who's like really solid pickup. Offensive line, the value's not there. So I'm not going to talk about it, but pretty damn good. A lot of young pieces that are starting to work together there. Cornerback. I mean, Juju ended up being cut, so you could talk about it. I mean, the guy who I think would end up fitting that physical profile would be Davison Igbinosun. But again, a lot of penalties. I think it's going to scare NFL teams, especially I don't necessarily think it's going to fly there with Steichen. Like, I don't think that shit flies. AJ Harris is the most likely, but again, and first off, how do you let up 100% completion percentage? Granted, I think it was 1 target, 1 yard, or 1 target and 1 reception. So, okay, I corrected myself there. But I will say, I don't think he's all that. I do think it's very realistic for him to go in this range, though. People glaze the hell out of AJ Harris. We're going to let him glaze. Pause. But 43, we got the Jaguars' first pick on the board. And we got Connor Lew, who's slipping here. I think this is the perfect spot for him to go. Again, centers are so wide in the range of where they go. And on top of that, he's been good. He hasn't been as reliable, in my opinion, as like an enforcer as he was last year. But still a very high floor center. We're going to go with him there. At number 44 for the Falcons, I'm going to skip Parker Brailsford this time just because I want to give y'all something new. I think that's fair. I think y'all appreciate that. DJ McKinney would be intriguing. Again, letting up 200 yards already on the year, a little bit scary. I will be going after Domani Jackson here, cornerback out of Alabama. Boundary corner, physical, definitely somebody who is going to be right there in the mold of AJ Terrell. Somebody who I think can continue growing and developing as your defensive backcourt continues to get younger and better too. 45 for the Cowboys. Would have been good to go after a corner there in Domani Jackson. We do not get that option. Now, I do like Igbinosun for the team for the long haul, but we've gone after Tyson. We've gone after Sutton. Defensive interior-wise, there's still some very good... Oh, my king! Caden McDonald's on this? Hell yeah! Oh my god, I love Caden McDonald. Y'all need to see this. Where did Caden at? Where the hell is my guy at right now? Did I put him that low? I kind of feel like a dick. 71. And this is, again, a lot of guys, technically 70. I have 2 Sunday Styles in there. I need to correct that. That's on me. A lot of guys who are going to be moving here, like DJ Harvey, he's been horrible in his transition, but a lot of very good players nonetheless. Cade McDonald's phenomenal. I do think getting a defensive interior is super duper valuable. I did not know he was balling like this. Granted, again, versus 2 very bad schools, but I didn't realize he was this reliable. Hell yeah. And I love being able to, like, Jay Toya's been ass. I mean, unfortunately, I've gone through and spent enough time trying to learn about all these, how the rookies are doing. Lovely Hunter as well. But I'm going to go Caden McDonald, defensive interior out of The Ohio State University. Let's just bulk up with beef on the interior, on the defensive line in general, right? Caden McDonald, Danny Dennis Sutton. Retool it. Everybody says it's garbage D line. Let's just prove them wrong. You got the Patriots going Colton Hood there in the first. Now, here in the second, we already actually went after Malachi Lawrence. I'm thinking, like, do I, like, put Malachi in here? But no. Edge rusher definitely is the route that I want to go. Again, Quincy Rhodes, with him not being a great run defender so far, I am a little bit concerned. Again, I don't want to get just a pure DPR for the Patriots. That's not how I roll. And you know what? I'm going to get a high floor right tackle. Not enough people talk about this guy, and it kind of sucks. But, where the hell did they put him? They better not put him this low. My king, Alex Harkey. So, first off, 4 pressures on the year. Not a huge fan of that. But he is transitioning, coming from Texas State to Ohio, or to Oregon. And again, this is a huge week for Alex Harkey. I think he is a phenomenal offensive tackle. I don't think he's a guard. Even though I think he has some guard length, I still think he is a phenomenal tackle. And the right tackle spot needs a long-term option. Alex Harkey is going to be my choice there, man. I know that you're going to see, like, oh, the 450th. That's just because they haven't ranked him yet. I can guarantee you there are bums who are ranked much higher. It's just because I know PFF's trying to get more names into it, and I thank God they have like over 400 now, and I'm still complaining, right? It's a big step up from where they were, but still, Alex Harkey for me coming into the year was number 46 on my board. And again, a lot of these players need to be updated. The players in green are the ones in, as well as blue, are the players who have the asterisk. There's a lot of players in yellow who will be shifting around, which is why I show you guys my board that has the blue and the green. So 47 for the Seahawks. First round win, David Bailey. Again, consistent baller. Feel very good with that. I'm going to look at Anthony Hill Jr. here. Again, I could have done it for the Patriots too, but I'm going to trust McDonald to be able to get the value out of Anthony Hill, and I trust Vrabel to snipe guys a little bit more down the line. It's a little bit more of a pressing issue, in my opinion, that I feel less comfortable sniping with the Seahawks there. Which, again, feel free to disagree. I respect it if you do. And honestly, if you want to say you should have drafted Anthony Hill there, I'm not going to disagree with you. At number 48 for the Pittsburgh Steelers went Drew Aller in the first. Offensive tackle is not out of the question here because literally Big Ben was roasting. And I mean, like, he kind of went a little bit too far in for my comfortable self on Broderick Jones. Xavier Chaplin could be a great choice here. He is struggling this year. I don't understand what PFF is doing necessarily in that regard. I do think he was much more of a pass protector than a run blocker. I guess if you're going to overweigh the running grades, that makes sense. He allowed 3 pressures in, I think, the game versus Baylor. So it was like a rough start to the year. After that, 3 games, 2 total pressures. I will give him some slack. I do think he is the best offensive tackle left. You could talk about Trevor Gooseby for sure, but again, someone who has literally played nobody since week number 1. So definitely some names in there. Caden Green, want him to be healthy. Sucks that he was not in a pretty big test, in my opinion, versus South Carolina. Tomas Remock is a guard. Just going to put that out there as well. End up having talk about a bad start to the year. There's just so many good players. I love Chris Adams too. This dude's so fun. He's built to be a guard because I think weighs in the 270s. Like, such a good player. A lot of fun offensive linemen. If your team needs offensive line that's not a tackle, this is the class for you. Caden Proctor needs somebody to coach him up. I'm going to go after the player that actually has a chance to work, and that's going to be Xavier Chaplin. At number 49, we have the Minnesota Vikings. We've already taken Dylan at the Eneman based on the theory that you guys are probably going to bring back Isaiah Rodgers with the fact that he had a 99.9 PFF graded game. Obviously, again, not the end-all be-all. Need to see if that can be a little bit more consistent over a year, but I've been saying this time and time again, we need to start looking at that defensive interior and end up building up a little bit more beef. And Lee Hunter is fantastic. I mean, again, going up against a really talented Utah front and held his own. Did a very good job. I know that there's another Texas Tech defensive interior here, Skylar Gill-Howard. I have not graded him. I'm just going to be completely honest, but statistically, he's done a fantastic job. I do know that he also was shouted out several times during that game, but the player who I have rated higher is Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, and 325 pounds, 330 again, 6'4", and just really solid short range explosiveness. He's just really reliable. So we'll go Lee Hunter right there. Number 50 for the Cardinals took Arvell Reese in round 1. This is a quick and easy one here. We're going to go KC Concepcion. Add that returning ability. He's been lights out this year. I mean, talk about lights out. This guy, even versus Notre Dame, was doing a fantastic job. And just going to be real here. Marcel Reed is the reason KC does not have 400 yards at this point. He's been incredible, underutilized, and as somebody like me who was a KC denier at the start of the year, I've become full 180. At number 51 for the Denver Broncos went Kenyon Sadiq in round number 1. Here in round 2, we're going to get some more beef on the interior, and I'm looking at Parker Brailsford here. Might be undersized, but this dude is stupid reliable, stupid strong, state wrestling champion. Like, this guy is just built to play well on the interior of the offensive line, and again, almost a national champion there with Washington a couple years ago, and probably the best part of the offensive line for Alabama. At number 52 for the Houston Texans, first pick, Jeremiah Love. Here at number 52, we could still go after offensive line. And I do think Trevor Gooseby, since he has experience at right tackle as of last year, would probably be the best choice. I mean, Ariante Ursary ended up having a struggle game at left tackle and right tackle, but the right tackle spot definitely seemed like he was doing even worse. So personally, I do want to do my best in order to set you guys up for success. Trevor Gooseby, one of the few right tackles that are remaining on the board. 53 for the Los Angeles Chargers. So far, went Keldrick Falk in round number 1. At this point, weaponry wise, I feel pretty comfortable with where the team's sitting. Interior offensive line definitely would be my choice if we could go Trevor Gooseby. Vega Eon would be fun, but again, you got to go after the center position, in my opinion, more than anything else. Getting a nose plug is going to be super key. Puna Ford, no longer there, and just going after someone who could end up being that longer term plug, probably going to be more desirable. And Daryl Jackson, some people have him as their true defensive interior 1. I do not, but this is the range that he is supposed to go. At number 54 for the Texans, Jeremiah Love, Trevor Gooseby. We got to look a little bit on the defensive side, and you still could look at the defensive interior spot. Tim Keenan would be intriguing, but does not fit the system schematically. Brandon Cleveland finally ended up having a good game versus Wake Forest, and I believe also versus Duke. So good to see him take that big step up. I will say, CJ Fight, another one that could end up being this range. I'm not a huge fan of where he's at statistically this year, but I've been actually able to talk to his dad. So shout out to, his name's Drennan. Drennan's a really cool guy, but might end up just doubling down on offensive line at this point. I mean, I'm going to go after somebody who's going to be a little bit higher floor than Trevor Gooseby. We're going to go after Vega Eon. I want to set the tempo for the run game here. We're just going to go all offense here. Trevor Gooseby, Vega Eon, and Jeremiah Love. 55 for the Bengals went Francis CC Mauigoa to play interior offensive line for us in the first. Here in the second, I will be looking at the edge rushing position. And you can talk about Kenyatta Jackson. I need to know what Quincy Rhodes' arm length is. That's like a big question mark at the moment. Anthony Lucas as well. Anthony's been incredible this year. Also has that physical build. I have not gotten to any USC defensive tape. Unfortunately, that is just not something that I am provided at the moment. Fingers crossed, once again, as the amount of tape increases, we get to end up seeing some of that. But Anthony Lucas is another one of those players in that 40+% range for true pass rush win rate. Has the physical size that the Bengals go after. We're going to go after him at 55. 56, Buccaneers, TJ Parker, round number 1. Here in round 2, I like the versatile linebackers. We're going to go Whit Weeks out of LSU. Quick and easy. I mean, one of the best linebackers in the country. A little bit undersized, but once you end up getting Todd Bowles, a player with this type of skill set and this type of leadership, I call it a day. 57, San Francisco 49ers took Isaiah World in the first round. I do think tight end is underrated position to target here. Miles Kitzelman finally getting his yards up, by the way, through 4 games, has over 100 yards. But, one of the players who I think is the best blockers in the entire country. And I do think that should be a little bit more of the focus for this team. Good to see some more tight ends, I believe, also added to this list. Rohan Jones has been fantastic this year. Ended up having a great week versus Memphis. Dark horse player to be included in this range. Again, another player I do not have all 22 grades for at the moment. Max Clare be intriguing, but I do know blocking and after the catch is super crucial for the Niners. I'm going to throw a little bit of a bone here and go Miles Kitzelman, tight end out of Tennessee. Might end up being a day 3 pick, but I'm just going to stand by a guy who I really, really like. Los Angeles Rams with Dante Moore, Avion Terrell. Good spot to be in. I would end up looking at right tackle here if I could. Keep forgetting that I always like to look at offensive tackle whenever, wherever possible. Remock might be worth it at this point. Deep threat, definitely at this point, based on the options available. You got Brazel here, you got Singleton, Bell, Antonio Williams, all different types of deep threats. Nick Harbor as well. You know what? For your big receiver, let's rock Nick Harbor. I mean, again, really underwhelming, but you don't need to have the route running separation. That's kind of what Pukas and Devontae Adams are there for. Let's get 6'5", 235 and just burn. At 59 for the Packers, haven't really obviously gotten the chance to draft anything yet. I'm going to immediately go Tim Keenan here. One of my favorite players in the entire draft for like where he's supposed to be because he hasn't played for the start of the year, so people kind of forgot about him. But true nose plug when you ended up trading for Micah Parsons, obviously got rid of the big plug that you already had in Kenny Clark. 60, Kansas City Chiefs took Denzel Boston, round number 1. Here in round number 2, I'm going to look at probably Quincy Rhodes here, Kenyatta Jackson as well. I mean, you just got to get someone with a little bit more size. And, I'm going to go after the guy who's been balling out as a pass rusher here with Quincy Rhodes Jr. He's been more situational, but again, want to see a little bit more productivity as a run defender. 61 for the Lions. They took Sonny Styles in the first. Again, pretty logical. I'm going to look at the edge rusher here, and this is where I'm going to go R. Mason Thomas, edge rusher out of Oklahoma. Kind of be like that former James Houston role. I know they've tried to prioritize a little bit more size, but R. Mason Thomas has been phenomenal. 6'2", 250 pounds. 62 for the Ravens, took Christian Miller in round number 1. Here in round number 2, let's go after offensive line. We need to get one of the guard positions, and there are a lot of very good options. And honestly, Josh Thompson, definitely one of them I want to give a shout to. He's been very reliable overall. Even though the grades don't say it, you can see only 1 pressure allowed this year. Man, we really do need to get PFF, man. Get your stuff together. We got to get guys like Lyndon Cooper in here because I am tired of taking placeholders. But we're going to go Tomas Remock here. He's technically a tackle, but I think I zoomed past him. But is he finally playing more reps at left tackle? He is. So after a rough week 1, he's actually been pretty damn solid. So we're going to go after Remock here. He's going to play at left guard for us the way he was last year over at West Virginia. 63 for the Philadelphia Eagles. You can end up probably trying to chalk this up as a tackle here with Caden Proctor. I mean, the problem is you might want something a little bit more immediate, but you can't really say no to having somebody of that skill set. Just because you guys are so close to the end, I will toss in a second player because I will be going after him. The second player that I'd probably try to target, I'd have to see how Rohan blocks, but that would probably be my next guy. Based on how well he's been playing recently. Max Clare, just undersized, doesn't really fit the overall profile. But we're going to go Caden Proctor here out of Alabama. And number 64, the Buffalo Bills ending off this mock draft. Caleb Banks in the first. Defensive back's going to be super crucial. And going after Kamari Ramsey, who brings the heat. Just an enforcer and, just reliable overall. Earl Little deserves a shout as well, but I will say he still needs to show out after week 1. We'll see how that happens, but Kamari Ramsey going to be the choice there. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching, showing the love that y'all always do. I'll catch you later. Peace.